Hello, I'm Chaiti. On behalf of Emami Art, I welcome all of you to the solo exhibition by 𝗏𝗏𝗹. It's called The Dawn to Dusk, a Silent Symphony. It's in the Gallery 3 of our space, and this artwork, which ranges from the paper works and textile works by 𝗏𝗏𝗹, are rooted in matriarchal labor, the memories of his childhood, the vernacular implements of the kitchen tools and the ancestral knowledge that he gained throughout his observations, and also the time cycle that binds the household work and as well as his work process. And 𝗏𝗏𝗹 will also want to know that what made you gain this idea of working in this process, and then what are the roots that you found towards the work.
Thank you, Chaiti. So the works which you can see here in the display are most in textile based works and paper based works, which are all done in natural dyes, which I source locally or forge, or sometimes I buy it locally from the local market, local Indian market, and then I extract the colors from it, and then I use different process of resist making and print making process, and then using it as dyes and pigments in my work. It's a very meticulous process of taking the whole dyeing and printing process into it.
As we have discussed earlier as well, that you do a lot of permutation and combination, and it takes almost the entire day, and it's also based on the seasons, because sometimes you get the rain and the sun, and sometimes your work is halted. So we'll look through the exhibition, and then we'll also try to understand the different nuances and what weaved your work together. So we'll move on to the artworks and then get deeper in it. So as we can see in this set of works, this is called The Dawn to Dusk. These are textile based works, and they are around 22 into 16 inches long. I mean, they are around 1 feet long, and these works actually sort of translate this idea of the sunrise from the dawn, like the final prahar of 𝗏𝗏𝗏, it is Usha, and then it moves through the entire horizon with the sun, and when the sun is half our head and over the top of our head, which is Madhyana, and then also when it goes to the dusk, that is before the Shayana, that's the Aparanna, the sunset sort of thing. So this is the entire cycle that he's trying to pull in through, and this becomes an overarching concept of the exhibition. And of course the silent symphony is another part of it, because mostly the works that are the household chores, that the women are always immersed in the house, are sort of devalued all the time, because they are like not a waged labor sort of thing. And 𝗏𝗏𝗹 will also speak about the the specific very interesting process that he used, that sort of binds the concept further into more interesting tangents. So yeah, so 𝗏𝗏𝗹, if you want to.
So this particular set of works is in set of 2 in a Dawn to Dusk series, where I have used the drawing and the forms which comes consciously and subconsciously from the spaces and the surroundings near the mud houses and all the kitchen and all, and which also allows me to bring another form after the another spontaneously, where I am reacting to the form which I draw, the former forms which I draw. So these are based on a set of 4 drawings which I previously drew in small postcards, and then I tried to sort of transfer it into textile, where you can see I have applied the wax resist. It's called the batik technique, where in Shantiniketan we have been taught to use a brush to apply the wax, and then the cracks are made through crushing the fabric, and then sort of different resists are used. In fact, in this case I have used a lime resist for the white spaces, and there is a mark making process with a kalamkari tool and a bamboo pen which I make on my own. There is some mark making spaces onto the work, which talks about the repetition of the daily mundane activities.
So the next set of works which we are looking at are 2 works which are deeply associated with the rituals of Indic households. So he has grown up in Ranchi, but he was born in a Bengali household. So he is imbibing thoughts and rituals from his parents' ancestral knowledge pipeline system, and also from what he observed in the childhood as a boy who was living with his mother and the grandmom and all this women folk in the house while the men were outside busy working. So this is offering to Surya, and we have 2 offering to Surya from the offering to Surya series in this exhibition. And offering to Surya is based on this Chhat Puja, which is a puja of the Chatti Maya during this, mostly it happens during the November months. And also there is a smaller Chhat that happens during the Chaitra month, I think. So the bigger one, we are like, most of the Indians are aware of how the Chhat Puja happens. It's an offering to the Surya Devata, the sun god, who is the brother of Chatti Maya, I think. So so where the thekuas are made, the sweet meat or the Indian cookie, which is made out of wheat and flour, wheat flour and jaggery and coconut. So that's a sort of a very delicious sweet meat, which is served at that point in time as a prasad to Chatti Maya and the sun god. And that also is one of those very important blocks that are coming across that we are seeing. So he is using the molds for the sweet meat blocks for the thekuas, and he is translating those blocks into his own impression or printmaking blocks onto the textile. And there are repetitive marks, as we are seeing that it's a mutual concept of all the works in this exhibition. They are actually from a very deeply ingrained childhood memory that they speaks about almost in every work. So if you want to speak about that, and as well as the ritualistic part of the
talking about this work particularly, I'm fond of collecting different objects which are used in household or which have been used for different purposes, which I've been seeing in childhood since my childhood, and then I thought of transferring it into my tool. So that particular wooden block for the thekua molds has been transferred into a wood block, and then the wood block printing technique, where the ajrak block print technique is also adopted in this work, where I mix the kalamkari ink with the tamarind seed gum, and it's made like a thickened paste which is used to print these black marks. And these black marks are again a sort of counting the days or the time or the repetitive actions and gestures of the household activities done by the members of the family or during the Chhat Puja festival. And these particularly round marks are the resists, lime resists from the round wooden blocks, which symbolize the round shape of the thekuas being prepared during the Chhat Puja. So this particular work also is kind of a homage to or a tribute to the sun god, and where the sun is mostly the energy giver in all life forms in this planet.
We are often seeing the idea of sun and the moon in your other works as well. So as like 2 very important time steps of the day and the celestial bodies, and they are so much connected to the ritualistic part of our household. We also see a visual aspect in all of your works. They're like sort of color field painting, sort of the visual it weaves. So do you have an inspiration for this sort of visual identity, or it's sort of it's happening through your memory recordings?
Actually, these are coming from the large paintings, mostly the kalamkari and the temple hangings, which I have seen mostly in the museums, and where also they use the tradition, very old, the process of natural dyeing. It's a very age-old tradition which has been continued since generations, and now in most parts of the clusters they are almost getting lost. So in a way it's also to like bring those recipes and all those colors and all.
Right, and then we can move on to, so this set of works which is called the Mother and Child series. They are all individual works, but they are all strewn together in a way with very familiar motifs of the Indian slab and the pestle grinder, which is called Shilnora. It's Mother and Child, and it's Ujjal's contribution. I feel that it's Ujjal's contribution to the art, the bigger universal theme of art history, that is the Mother and Child. And they're expressionistic and they're sort of abstract, but it has familiar motifs from the Indian households. So Shilnora is basically that duo which we are seeing repeated in all of the works in different formats and dispositions as he's building up the motifs. And here the 𝗨𝗏 is basically a child and the 𝗁 is the mother. So he takes this cue from 𝗁 𝗨𝗄𝗆 Pujo, which is celebrated the day after the Basant Panchami in Indian households, specifically in Bengali households. So where the mother and child are taken together and the 𝗁 𝗨𝗏 is becoming deified as the 𝗁 𝗨𝗄𝗆. So Ma 𝗨𝗄𝗆 is basically a folk female goddess, and she has a vahana, which is a cat, and she holds two babies in her hand, and then she is a protector of the children, all the child who are suffering from this airborne diseases and illness during the springtime. So the household women are actually obligated to sort of seek for their health, and even being their contributions in the household and the family are sort of devalued, they still keep on doing this because they think that this is their sort of way or the ritual to sort of serve the family. So for the 𝗁 𝗨𝗄𝗆 thing, he is also sort of translating the process of work, and so I would want to know that how he actually executed the process, because that's very interesting. I found it really interesting. So if you can explain, yeah.
Yeah. So for the process in this particular work, I did the action of rubbing or grinding the stone on the pestle on the slab. I used that particular technique to transfer the impressions or the imprints of the, as you can see, the stone slab over here. So I put the ink on the stone slab, and then I put the fabric onto it, and then I repeated that gesture of grinding.
So you are using the this 𝗨𝗏 as the bearing also, right? So you are rubbing with that
stone, and using that technique only these impressions are brought here, and then again a similar kind of roller to put these black marks. Then again these these marks are coming from again that memory of the mark making using wax and ink, and the dyes here which I have used in the work are mostly used in medicines also, like the 𝗃𝗏𝗏, where the 𝗃𝗏𝗏 consists of the 𝗦𝗶𝗹𝗏, amla and 𝗏𝗏, and neem also, neem leaves, the onion skin,
and haldi,
and haldi also, and the turmeric. For these black marks, I am taking references from the mark of the kajal, a black sooth put on a child's head to keep it to ward off the evil's eye. And this whole series is like derives from the idea of the protection of the family members and the children.
So this is a part of the material memory series. So this is it's also hanging on textile, and as we can see, there are these familiar objects of the household, that are the botis or the Indian choppers and vegetable cutters. So he has used an iteration of 7 vegetable chopper motif to sort of signify this idea of a relentless labor in the household that goes on 24/7. So they are in whatever disposition they are in, but the work is on at the household. So that's the moot idea behind this work, but the process is again a very relentless and a very never ending sort of a thing, as much as like the work. So I mean, 𝗁𝗏 will sort of just telling us like how you arrived at this process and then how it went.
Yeah, so when I collected these different objects from the market, I also got to see these vegetable cutters, and interestingly, sometimes I use the iron sheets to transfer the rust of different objects or the familial objects into textile, which reacts with the tannin present in 𝗦𝗶𝗹𝗏. So this particular boti, which was also rusted, I collected it from an ironsmith locally in Shantiniketan, and which talks about the 7 days in a week, the daily usage of that object to cut the vegetables very meticulously, and the marks also talks about, as I have told in the previous works, about the daily iteration, and where using the wax resists, leaving these marks as unresisted and dyeing it also gives me the idea or the form and the inspiration from the peel of the vegetable sometimes, looking at it.
And it's also, I think, dyed with indigo, right?
It's dyed with indigo. So this particular is there are 2 sets of works in this series, material memory. This one is the vegetable chopper, another is the boti, which is used to cut fish. So that's a fish cutting boti. That's the shape is a bit different. So here in this work, you see there are a lot of layers in this work which were repeatedly resisted, again dyed, and again removed, again resisted, again dyed. So taking one like what I will say, it's sort of derived from an accident in one particular work. Then again I started it to implement in my other works. You see these marks. So these are particularly the areas where I left the wax, and these were resisted in wax. So this is also a sort of the scraping of the scalp of the fish or the scales of the fish, which is giving this texture.
Right. So
and one also interesting thing which I used to notice in the shops when I used to go with my father, that some blood stains were there at the floor.
Okay.
So these blots, ink blots, are from that reference.
So we can see in your works that you are also taking refuge to, and you are sort of embracing the sort of the accidental and the situational. So if when we are moving on to the other works, so we are taking cue from this, that you are taking in loop of the accidental and the sort of accidental and whatever happens as a sort of a by-part of your process. So when we are looking at the 𝗦𝗶𝗵 series or the 𝗨𝗵𝗃 series, we are seeing like the full circles that we are seeing, which is like auspicious full circles that's denoting the sun. And 𝗦𝗶𝗵𝗃, as we have conversed before, that 𝗦𝗶𝗵𝗃 or 𝗦𝗶𝗵𝗃, that's like a very ritualistic process in the Santal and the Bengali households, where it's done as a 𝗨𝗵𝗃 on the floor, like swabbing the mud and the khoimati on the floor in front of the the front gate in the morning as a ritualistic gesture, and as well as it's to seek blessings from the sun or the Surya Devata. So I would want to know that how did you arrive at the idea of doing it? I mean, what are the memories or things associated with this work, and also the 𝗨𝗵𝗃, which is done on the earthen walls or the 𝗏𝗏𝗏 𝗏, as we know that we have this half moon arc sort of marks that are there, and they were practiced and they are becoming substantially they are sort of vanishing, the practices are vanishing, these sort of houses are not there. So there is a larger ecological context you are also trying to bring in, I believe. So if you would say that something about your ideas on it.
Okay. So I arrived at this point of works while exploring the mark making process, different mark making process, which I had seen since my childhood. So there I would see my grandmaternal and paternal grandmother making these marks, either with hand, like these gestures, or with a broomstick. There is the mixture would be of the local clay and the cow dung mixed in a bucket, and then they would swab the floor or the walls. And at morning they would make these large circles called 𝗦𝗶𝗵𝗃 in our place, and 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 in local in Birbhum. So these would also, in the Santal community, these full circles would be the sun marks, and the half circles would be the moon marks. So there is a way of conversing with the nature directly, and there is they get energy from both of them, and the life is sustaining around them. So it's like giving a respect to the natural sources of energy giving thing, like
celestial bodies.
Yeah, celestial bodies. From that I thought of doing those works, and while reading one article, 𝗃𝗺𝗃 𝗃 is mentioning about that the kalamkari paintings are you can say like as followers to the mural wall paintings of the Lipakshi in Andhra Pradesh, so following that note, I thought of why not to explore these gestures onto textile, which are now getting, you see, very less in numbers, where we can't see this construction of the vernacular mud houses with the rapid increase in the urbanization, and the closeness to nature is also getting lost day by day. So for this particular work, there it was the use of the mud resist. The mud used here was 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏, a white sediment found in also in the local landscape of 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏, and which is also used for the drawing alpanas at festivals in different occasions. So then it was dyed using indigo, and finally the circle was made using the red madder and the yellow with turmeric.
Red madder is as in the manjishta and the
Manjishta.
haldi. Alright. So we'll move on to another set of works, which is 𝗨𝗏, as I mentioned. So this is again that observing his grandmother, whom he was very close to. He's sort of replicating her movements, her pattern, her physique of working, and he's copying that, almost mimicking that way of working, and then sort of translating the same swabbing motion onto his paper-based works. These are his paper-based works, and then he's like this entire journey from the morning doing that sort of alpana or the smearing of the meruli in the front door. He's coming to another picture or the time of the day when he's also looking at the moon marks, or the marks that his grandmom would make on the walls to sort of protect the walls every day, and also to sort of mend the household, which is normally seen as a very sort of a patriarchal thing. A man only sort of takes the forefront of mending or repairing, but in vernacular, in the case of vernacular, when we are living in a community of in the villages or in the rural suburbs, it's very much a woman's task to sort of repair and mend and preserve the strength of a household. So these are some of those works. I mean, they like largely talk about this, and this is a very important conceptual framework that 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 has taken up, and I mean they reflect as well as he had through his process as well. So here we are arriving at the final set of work in this showcase. This is a suite of 4 textile works, and they're hanging pieces, and this is like a culmination of the entire exhibition scenography, in a way that we have also given a sort of place to all his dye and the resist and the mordant and gum binders and all these materials, and also the pens and the columns that he uses for his work, and also the botis as a part of the material memory, and the 𝗟𝗟 and the tekiwa blocks, and the way he has made the from the iron dust and the jaggery, so the iron acetate or the kalamkari ink that he has also made, and a video that is sort of has a very sort of an ASMR sort of an audio, which is not sort of manipulated, and it's a real sort of a footage sort of documentary that he's been journaling throughout the process of making this work since around 2021 to 2024. Yeah. So that's sort of a long process, and it's very complicated, so it's basically complementing the exhibition in a way, and then we are also looking at these works. So Daag is where the past meets present, is a very nostalgic piece, and as well as a piece of consciousness where 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 is basically traveling through a journal or a journey from his boyhood days and when he's growing up. So he's reiterating everywhere the katha marks that his grandmom would do, and the repetition of those katha marks, and these are like very basic Bengal quills, not the the Nokshi katha or that sort of thing. These are like basic thing for people at the households, and not something that's very ornamental. Yeah. And also where this mark making games, you were saying, if you could tell about the game and how your grandmom would react to it, and then how this work actually came alive through it. Yeah.
So basically in my childhood days, me and my brother and some friends were used to play with a stick, place it in water, and then make marks onto the cement walls. Yeah. So those marks, sometimes we would draw some cartoons, some elements, some local shapes, some things like scenery or landscape like that. But my grandmother used to tell that it's very inauspicious, don't do that. But gradually observing her, both of my grandmothers making marks with the mud paste and the cow dung paste, I used to think why they are also making these marks or the painting with that. So why they are like telling us not to do these marks. So from that it like gradually came like these forms as some drawings on paper, and then I translated onto textile. So taking these as the full circle marks from the 𝗨𝗵𝗹 or the 𝗦𝗶𝗵𝗵 series, I am making these as references of the planets or the sun and moon or the landscapes from a topographical view, or the occupied landscapes by the human or the nature which is also getting lost. These marks, the iterations of the daily mundane, are adopted by the process of the 𝗏𝗏 stitches, but the 𝗏𝗏 stitches marks are transferred into drawing technique with the use of qalam and the black ink into the 𝗦𝗶𝗹𝗶 dyed cloth. And very minimal use of color is there, because I wanted to just have focus on the form, the basic form which I drew onto the 4 panels.
And I think they are also very calligraphic in a way. And
so where the whole action of the whole body is also taken into account in these works, long panels, which all 4 kept together is conversing with each other.
Right. And also you're taking utmost respect and preservation for the accidental, I'm seeing. And also this dark thing,
Yeah, so for instance, in this particular case here, I am altering the quantity of the gum and the ink where I need to blot it more or putting more water. Then it also signifies the very organic nature of the landscape or the marks which I am talking about.
So in a way, at this time when we are living in, and when the the world is infested with AI and things that are not at all mechanized, and things have become almost automated in every scape. So when he is sort of embracing all of these stories and the histories and shared knowledge and this meticulous work process, which is coming from the very ancient and the medieval styles and processes of formations of textiles. So it's sort of unmistakably, this is a door that is open towards the idea of mechanically doing works, and also sort of preserving this older traditions of knowledge, and as well as the traditions, textile based traditions. So 𝗙𝗵𝗵𝗃 is of course a researcher who is working with the Indian textiles and other dyes. So when we are looking at the works in Dawn to Dusk, the Silent Symphony is of course a blanket band silence in the Indian households, which 𝗙𝗵𝗵𝗃 is epitomizing through his textile works and paper works. So we'll look forward to more such works, and until now, congratulations 𝗙𝗵𝗵𝗃 for your very first solo at Emami Art. Please come and visit the show. The show is till 20th of August 2024. Thank you.